Here we go.
Hi, everybody. Well, that's secrets out of the bag. Before we get into it, we would like you to think about the last time that you did something really brave, something that just broke conventions. Could be personal, could be professional. Think about how you felt. And, feel free to shout it out, any emotions, any feelings before you did it.
We got
Okay,
fear
you're on
here.
mute.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Anyone else? Any other feelings? Anxious?
Yep.
Excitement? All good feelings, Joan. We like
Yeah,
fear.
all good feelings. All good feelings. And so that's your DNA talking, and Becca and I are here today to help you think about how you as marketers can really help others overcome the invisible barrier to creativity. So I'm Joan Colletta. Yes, I have COVID. It's the only thing that would keep me from being with you because I am a fellow strategist by background, and currently I'm Senior Director, Global Marketing Transformation at McDonald's. And for the last 4 years, my job has been all about leading a culture of global creativity, creative excellence, and effectiveness. Our mission is about inspiring and enabling world-class work that moves both culture and our business. And that's how I've gotten to know Becca, as she and Contagious have been awesome partners with us throughout our journey.
Thank you. So hi everyone. I'm Becca, Becca Peel. I'm a lead strategist at Contagious on the advisory team. Despite the accent, I am based here in New York with some of you guys. For people who might be less familiar with Contagious, just really briefly, we're a creative and strategic intelligence firm, the advisory team. Oh, we're going to have a couple of hiccups as we go. Forgive us. We're managing. The team here have been phenomenal, turning this all around in less than 24 hours. So we're making it work. But back to where we were. So Contagious is a creative and strategic intelligence firm. The advisory team, what we do is we work with large-scale and medium-scale marketing organizations, the likes of Heineken, Unilever, Oliver, a couple of others as well, on transformation initiatives to help them raise their creative ambition and to help them really strengthen their creative cultures and their creative capabilities as well. Now, unlike a lot of those organizations, the people in this room today, pretty much all of you already know that bold, brave creativity isn't just something that we find interesting and rewarding and enjoyable. It is an absolutely critical driver of business growth. You wouldn't be at this conference today if you didn't already believe that. And actually, for the most part, the marketers that we work with would probably also say that they want to create bold, brave work as well. That was our title slide. But here's the thing. So even as any human being, we all know that saying that we want something is very different to actually wanting it. And there is research out there that has found that although people might say that they want creativity, actually in reality what happens is we reject it. Now there might be research out there, you all I'm sure have experienced that firsthand. And this intriguing finding actually comes from a research paper that was conducted by researchers at Cornell University. Some of you might have come across it before. So they published this paper called The Bias Against Creativity back in 2010, but it is a phenomenal piece of research. And in that, what they found is that even when people state overtly that they want creativity, that it's a desired goal for them, what they found was that in reality, it gets rejected. And that is because we have this bias against creativity. Now, this bias that we have is a lot of the time unconscious. We're not aware that we have it. And it is so pernicious that what it does is it creates a similar brain response as things like poison, vomit, and agony. Not things that we want to experience on a day-to-day basis, understandably. And a big part of the reason that we get these kind of responses is because creativity is fundamentally uncertain. It makes us feel uncomfortable for those reasons. And that's because by nature, as we all know, creativity should be new, it should be original, it should be unfamiliar. But that being said, as human beings, the problem is that we have evolved to have pretty extreme negative reactions to uncertainty and by proxy to things like creativity. Because if you think back to kind of prehistoric times when essentially we were biologically identical to how we are today, if you were uncertain about what was going on, your life could really be at stake. If you were uncertain if there was a predator nearby, probably too late for you. And so we have these really extreme negative reactions to uncertainty and to creativity. And as a result, what we see in our day-to-day jobs is that marketers, people, we will kind of just as eagerly find reasons to reject a creative option as we would to prefer it. So we've all experienced that situation where you go into a room, you share this brave, bold idea that you love, and someone comes up with really rational, seemingly objective reasons to say no, even to the extent of kind of second-guessing the opinions or the shutdowns that other people might have, whether that's the CFO or legal, and they bring those into the conversation as well. If we take any piece of the most iconic advertising of recent times, again, there are probably very robust, rational reasons why they wouldn't be approved. However, what that means is that as marketers, the real truth behind it is that we need to feel some level of discomfort in order to take advantage of the huge potential upside that creativity has to offer. And what it all really comes down to, and why Joan and I are here today, is because delivering bold, brave, creative ideas means having the courage to defy your DNA and having the courage to defy the rational parts of your brain as well. Now, that is a deliberately provocative statement because it does go against everything that we and our partners are wired to think in this business world. But as I've said, if we really want to take advantage of bravery, we need to understand that this kind of ingrained response to creativity exists in us, but we're slightly more resistant to it, and also in our partners to help them to overcome it. And that brings me to a pretty controversial statement to put on a big screen in a room full of agency folk, but nevertheless, at Contagious, one of our most ardent beliefs is that the hardest job in the industry falls not to those who come up with the great ideas, but those who risk their careers in approving them. I'm going to hand back to Joan to give you her perspective too.
Having seen it from both sides, I may have to agree. My first time going from the agency to the client side was in 2006, when I moved from Leo Burnett to Miller Brewing Company, working on great brands like Miller High Life. And I had many, I'm not in Kansas moments anymore, when I took that first trip to the other side of the rainbow. But one that really stuck with me that I wish I could have told my younger agency planner self was that when an agency's strategist's work ended, that's really where the client's work really began. As an agency strategist, when you sell that campaign into the client, it's a moment to pop the champagne or the champagne of beers, because the hardest part for you is done. As a client, though, that just bought the work, you're celebrating as well. But there's also that kind of record scratch, dose of reality moment that really hits. Because resting on your shoulders is, yes, the ultimate success of the campaign, but even before that, it's the responsibility to keep that idea alive, unharmed, intact, with full funding support through what's often a gauntlet of alignment with leadership, distributors, sometimes the distributors' significant others' opinions, initial research results, and let's face it, even your own 2 cold feet. So bringing the kind of work into the world that cuts through the 85% of content that is ignored demands bravery and creation, but it also demands a brave client culture willing to embrace it. And that's really where you all come in. If you want to get more of your brave, bold ideas into the world and help grow your clients' brands, there's a huge role for you to play, not just in creating the work, but in helping them defy their DNA and supporting them as they convince those around them to do the same. So to help, we have captured 4 tangible questions you can ask yourself based on our collective experience.
And we're going to start off with what is essentially a strategist's bread and butter. So hopefully we've got the right audience here. Now, we all love a good stat, a good research paper, and we all happily reference time and time again kind of the research and the findings of the likes of the IPA, Nielsen, the FEs, all of which have found that like the #1 driver of effectiveness is bold, brave creativity. And when we talk about brave creativity, we're talking about the kind of creativity that pushes boundaries, that does something that hugely. No, should I stop? I'm good. We love some tech hiccups. It just helps everyone else loosen up. So that information, that brave creativity, is the #1 driver of effectiveness, is hugely compelling for all of us in this room. It is also, or at least it can be, hugely compelling to client organizations as well. But the thing is that to truly land that message, we need to not just make sure that our clients know those facts and figures, they have to truly believe them as well. So at Contagious, for example, one of the things that we do when we're working on these transformation initiatives, a lot of the time, the starting point that we tend to kind of go in with is making that case for creativity, so that across the entirety of the organization, everyone understands why we're doing that, why are we talking about creativity, why are we raising the ambition, why are we making all of these changes to your culture and making your job that little bit harder, so that everyone understands why it is so important and the commercial benefits that they stand to gain from it. Over to Joan.
Thanks, Becca. Speaking of the Effies, it's been a multi-year, full brand, full agency team journey to get us to the place we are today, which is both Effie and WARC's most effective global brand. And what people don't realize is that the case building has been a big part of the transformation. Just to back up a bit, our creative transformation started from the realization that we were an icon brand that really forgot we were an icon. 5 years ago, the majority of our work around the world was focused on short-term, disposable promotions, totally missing the emotional connection between our brand and its fans. Why? They were sure bets. There was fear to move away from the proven to the unknown, even though the potential upside was huge. I remember a conversation with one of my colleagues who was trying to explain it to me at the time, and he said, think about it this way. I've got this proven promotion that I know works. I have this thing on the calendar. I can count the number of sales it's going to bring in. Am I going to be the one to break that cycle and say, hey, franchisees, hey, CEO, trust me, let's go with this? And we knew that was our opportunity. We had to take away that uncertainty and help provide better support for our marketers. At first, we shared all of the industry data in a really simple way. We all know it, the case for creativity, how brands grow, the long and short of it, bringing Les Binet in to talk to our marketers, and that certainly helped. But it was supercharged even more when we were able to unlock it with our own data, and it was actually suggested by someone in finance. It took over a year because we are a decentralized organization. At the time, our data was decentralized, but we were able to show that when we invest in building our brand through the power of creativity, it builds our ROI, not just in the long term, but in the short term as well. And that was the evidence that we needed to socialize the case throughout the organization, from everyone to the leadership socializing with the board, to the CMOs of the countries, even standing up in front of our worldwide convention in front of franchisees, talking about how marketing works and bringing the receipts. And that provided the support for our agency partners, for our marketers to do their thing, which was create brave, emotional work that builds our brand and the emotional connection with our fan. So now what we see is marketing is frequently cited in our earnings reports, and some are saying our CFO is starting to sound like a CMO. And creative excellence isn't just a marketing thing. It's becoming an organization thing, and it's one of the top priorities for the entire company. So that leads us to our question, are you building the business case for Bravery? Are you helping to really bridge that gap between the CMO and the CFO with industry data, even better, our brand's own data, to help them gain support from those around them for those creative leaps of faith?
Okay, so that's our first question. And yes, we can all agree that making the business case for creativity is a great starting point, but that alone probably isn't going to help us to overcome those kind of instinctive poison, vomit, agony associations that we have with creativity. And so it's worth thinking about other pivotal moments, one of which is when we're evaluating creativity. I'm sure everyone here has been in one of those rooms where you present this bold, brave idea that you love and that you believe in, and slowly but surely, the edges just get knocked off of it. It's brought into this safe, familiar, really wallpaper territory. Now, that's kind of understandable at the end of the day. If we empathize with our marketers, we recognize that actually recognizing a bold, brave idea is really hard to do, and to see the potential in it as well. Realistically, a lot of the time evaluating creativity, it comes off as something that's really subjective, that is quite undisciplined, and in no other part of a marketer's job is their personal judgment so important and yet so exposed. A lot of the time, this isn't something that they're doing frequently. And so what we would say is that this is where having a really clear creative ambition and a common creative language becomes critical. At Contagious, once again, one of the things that we have seen work time and time again is to articulate and codify the creative ambition of an organization into a creative common language tool that can be used across the entire organization, both by the marketers and their agency partners, to help them speak the same language and get on the same page. And we're going to talk through a little bit how that works in practice, but to give you a bit of the theory behind it first, what we get from having a common creative language is, for starters, it enables a more productive conversation around creativity. It takes away the subjectivity. It roots us in all understanding what is it that we're looking for, what is it that we're not seeing, and so we can have these more constructive conversations that are getting to the outcome that we both are trying to reach. Now, it helps do that internally as well as with our partners. And as you can see, there are some other benefits as well. So having a common creative language, having a clearly codified creative ambition, it provides a benchmark for creative progress, so you can set your sights higher, and you can also monitor how you're doing against that. For some marketers, it also provides a security blanket. So if you imagine that you're a new marketer or you've just moved into that role, really what you want is to be able to formulate your thoughts, but that you're under a lot of pressure when someone presents you with an idea. You might not feel like you have the ability to articulate your rationale, your reasoning. Having a security blanket like a common creative language tool, that gives you the ability to not kind of surpass your own creative judgment, but actually the ability to really hone what it is. And finally, it is also a great creative capabilities builder as well. So creativity and creative judgment isn't, well, for some people, it is something that you are born with. I'm sure there are people in this room who were born with it as an innate talent, but it isn't for everybody. And it is something that we genuinely believe can be built with practice. And having tools like this can be really transformational. Now, McDonald's are one of those companies, one of those brands that have seen a creative evaluation tool, a creative common language, really change the game for them.
So yes, at McDonald's, we built and embedded our own creative scale based in decades of IPA research and really in our own approach to marketing, something we call feel-good marketing, where our ambition is very much to not just live in culture, but to drive it with emotional fame-building work that builds both our brand and our business. So we use it in all kinds of ways. We do creative reviews to discuss our work, others' work, best in class, criteria for our own internal awards that we'll talk about in just a bit, and as a benchmark to progress. And it's delivered all of those benefits that Becca talks about as well. One, it helps marketers, have deeper conversations about the work with each other, and it helps provide a prompt for agency and client teams to align on common ambitions for the work. So jumping to the UK, an example of how the scale provided utility. If we think about a couple of years ago, the brilliant team in the UK launched a platform idea. It was an affinity idea called Fancy a McDonald's, based on the invitation that an invitation to McDonald's is more than just going to enjoy food. It's about letting go of life's pressures in the company of your friends and family. Okay, so year one on platform, their own evaluation, strategically really strong, probably in the area of ownable to heads up, but they knew they had to push it creatively. And so that's what they set as their ambition. And they knew the key to platforms is not starting over and starting with a white blank piece of paper, but keep pushing the idea, and that's what they did. And with the aim of getting higher on the creative scale, and they came up with a fresh approach to Fancy a McDonald's, based on the insight that an invitation to McDonald's is so universal, it needs no words. Hopefully you've seen Raise Your Arches. It is all about that unspoken language people have, the look, the head point, the eyebrow raise, and as we say, raising your arches, truly an iconic idea. We scaled it to more than 35 countries. It slayed our ROMS benchmarks and generated millions of user-generated content of people raising their own arches. So just a quick example of how we use the scale in practice, simple tool driving dramatic change. So that leads to our second question, which is, are we native speakers of a creative common language? And if not, how can you work with the marketers around you to create one and embed it throughout the shared organization?
Okay, so moving on to our third area now. We all know marketing or marketers and agency folk are busier than ever today, and there are many, many reasons for that. It's, everything from the proliferation of channels and platforms that mean we have to cover more touch points than ever before. It's the changing dynamics of our marketing landscape that mean that we now actually have to interact with our consumers. We can't just talk at them. And in that context, it becomes kind of easy to fall into this practice of just getting on a hamster wheel, of churning out deliverables and just focusing on that to make sure that we're covering all our bases, to make sure that we're fulfilling our agreed scopes. But actually, when that happens, what becomes all the more important is taking the time to make space for creativity. And that's the third point that we're going to make today. Because at Contagious, again, one of the things that we do to help transform creative cultures is we look for ways to create dedicated time to really focus on creativity and the difference that it can make for your business as well. How can you create the routines and the behaviors to really make space for creativity, to provoke conversation around it, to build that creative muscle? And what those routines and rituals look like can vary pretty extremely depending on the organization and their needs, but it could be anything from the more traditional kind of thing, like trainings or refresher courses on everything from how to brief well, how to give feedback well, how to evaluate an idea, into things like inspiration sessions or newsletters, things that are going to build exposure to brave, boundary-pushing work regularly to get us having conversations about it and getting used to talking about creativity and using our creative common language. And some organizations push it even further. They go out there and they create things like creative councils. So there are many different types of creative council out there. There are the ones that review the work and kind of judge how the organization is performing against their creative ambition. There are also the ones that bring together senior leaders in the organization. They bring together their agency partners, sometimes even just external industry experts as well, to really talk about the latest developments in marketing and how they might impact the business. But all in all, what we see is that these comprehensive ways of thinking, how can we bring creativity into the conversation with more routine and regularity, can really be game-changing. And once again, no surprise here, McDonald's has been one of those organizations that has maybe one of the most impressively comprehensive systems that they have put in place. And Joan's going to tell you about it.
So I think for time, yes, we do all of the things that Becca talked about, and I'm happy to share more on it later. But just a couple of tangible things that really, as agency strategists and as strategists in general, you can really help facilitate to make time to get off the hamster wheel. One is taking time for those regular reviews, even if they're just done annually and become a ritual. Our agency partners are critical in helping us pull together reviews where we talk about the work, we talk about external work, and we talk about how are we going to get to our ambition and where are we now and where do we need to be. But another idea that's very tangible came out of Asia and the Philippines specifically. It's a process we call open briefs. And it's because we recognize we get caught in the confines of, in our case, the retail calendar. And it makes it hard to really step back and think about what's happening in consumers' lives daily, what's happening in culture, and how does what we sell, our products, our services, and our brand bring value to their worlds. And out of that open brief session where the agency brought proactive ideas and bring them proactively, regularly, was an idea that has been winning on the awards circuit and really helping to, as we said, get McDonald's into the subculture of gaming. And it's something called Unbranded Menu. Let's take a look.
People are loving their McDonald's, and it seems the gaming world does too. This looks a lot like McD. So does this. And is this a Big Mac? A brand so iconic that video games have been mimicking them for years. Our menu was hiding in plain sight, all across the gaming multiverse. And all we had to do was invite gamers to branded McDonald's. This is Unbranded Menu. We identified the country's best gaming influencers, ranked them on reach and platform played, then teamed up with them to start a game within these games. Gamers love to screen grab their favorite gaming moments. So we challenged them to search across games, screen grab McDonald's food-alikes, and tag them #ThisIsMcDonald's. The fries in Goat Simulator? Branded McDonald's. The burger in Grand Theft Auto? Now a Big Mac. The burger in Final Fantasy XIV? You guessed it, a Quarter Pounder. Soon after, their legions of followers were tagging McDonald's all over.
This is freaking fries! Yes! McDo fries ba to?
We powered up the hunt with customized responses, enabling gamers to turn their virtual finds to real McDonald's food.
Of the campaign, obviously the case study video is out there as well. Joan can't hear us, and she had one more thing that she wanted to say on that front, I think.
Nope, keep going.
No, just me. Okay, lovely team. We're on it. I promise we also only have like 2-3 more minutes. So what we can see from that genius idea, you can check out the results, which are later on in the case study yourselves. But essentially what it shows is that by asking the question, are we creating space for creativity? Ideas like that can come to life, and they can become part of what is being put out into the world by the brand without it having to be part of the sort of prescribed marketing calendar. Now, beyond just this question, are we creating space for creativity as partners to the organizations that you work with? The other questions you can ask yourselves to think to Joan's point there are sort of, are we exposing our marketers to the best, most boundary-pushing creativity that is out there in the world, that is setting the bar for consumers in terms of expectations, both from their category, but also more broadly? And equally, are we bringing them ideas that are going to help show the creative potential of their brands as well, to build that hunger that they can have? Because if it's not part of their typical briefs, actually creating that space can be really important. Now, our final point, which I promise is a short one, is that if we want to kind of incentivize people to push past their DNA and to bring really brave, great ideas out into the world, then we need to make it desirable. And we need to do that at the most human level possible. We need to do it emotionally. And so what we need to do is really incentivize and celebrate creativity to show that it is valued in the organization. Now, a really quick example that we have here is essentially one of the most powerful motivators that we've seen in organizations has been things like internal creative awards. For many reasons, there are kind of 3 critical ones. On the first hand, it makes the creative ambition of the organization really tangible. The second one is that it rewards and champions the teams that are putting in the phenomenal effort that it takes to bring brave ideas into the world. And the third one, because there are 3, as I promised you, is that it celebrates progress towards the creative ambition of the organization. Now, McDonald's have a really great example of this, so I'm going to hand over to Joan to talk through how they have transformed through the Feel Good Marketing Awards.
Yes, it's now, our Feel Good Marketing Awards has really been a game changer because they've been a culture changer. It's now in its 5th year, and it's really a way for us to shine a light on what great looks like for us, why it's great, and really celebrate the teams behind the work. And it's really that anticipated ritual now that helps us drive a shared culture of marketing at McDonald's. I love that term that we just heard about, collective effervescence, and that's exactly what happens. We put a ton of work into the awards and record number of entries last year, 400, and we held it in the metaverse. Does anyone remember the metaverse? In all seriousness, though, it was really a great place to get 2,000 people together in the same room, feeling the pride of being a McDonald's marketer, but also being inspired by the best work around the system so that it shares and travels more easily. Now, in 2001, an idea called Famous Orders by Wyden and Kennedy and Marcus Collins that, as he was part of Wyden and Kennedy, based out of the US team, was our Grand Prix winner. So we can skip ahead to a slide, but I want to say this idea, we shone a light on it on the Feel Good Marketing Awards. We talked about why it was great, and we used it as an opportunity to really socialize it around the system. Now it is an idea that has sparked 2 global campaigns and actually has been picked up by 24 other markets, driving their own locally relevant famous orders. So let's take a look.
You know, a lot of people, a lot of celebrities will have like sandwiches named after them. Rarely does someone get an entire meal named after them.
I'm Travis Scott. This is my McDonald's order.
Hola, soy J Balvin, and I'm dropping my McDonald's order. Let go.
I'm Saweetie, and this is my McDonald's order.
Yeah, we're here for the BTS meal.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. But essentially, that leads us to our last question. Are we making creativity contagious? And as you've seen, awards, like internal awards, can be one really important facet of that. So if there are any brand marketers in the room, we do recommend giving it a go. Equally, as their agency partners, what can be really important is finding a champion in your partnered brand. By finding that person, helping them package up their success story so that they can evangelize it across the organization, it's so, so important and can be so powerful as well to making creativity contagious in the organization. So those are 4 questions that we have that hopefully will be helpful to you as you think about how you can help your brands, your partners to overcome their intrinsic bias against creativity, to defy their DNA and to push bold, brave work out into the world. As we've seen, there is no silver bullet for this. We all know that. We would love it if there were. But if we try these different approaches, these different ways in, then ultimately we will break it down. We will get there. And so, fingers crossed, you can hopefully take some inspiration from some of the things that we spoke about today. One last comment from Joan, and then we will leave you to the rest of the day.
And it's just as strategists, we often think about ourselves as partners in the creation, but really by being your clients' partners and the marketers around you, their partners in defying the bias against creativity, you can ensure more of the work that you create makes its way into the world to drive culture and commercial results. And together with more of you by their side, more marketers will be feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Thank you so much. Thanks for putting up with the technical difficulties. See you guys soon.